am here to talk about menopause myths, like all these misconceptions that are floating around everywhere. And so if you are feeling overwhelmed by all of the conflicting information that is out there in the internet and out there in groups and just talking to your friends and even providers, medical providers, you are not alone, and this video is for you. So there is obviously a ton of information out there. A lot of it is contradicting, and it's so hard to know where to start and like what you can actually trust and what you can actually believe. And so I want to break down some of the biggest menopause myths that I've come across and seen. And I just want to actually kind of bring some truth behind them, right? And actually kind of bring some facts. Now, I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional at all. I am just someone who has been through it. I've done a ton of research, and I am going to bring in some facts and viewpoints from trusted menopause and perimenopause experts like Dr. Mary Claire Haver, like Dr. Avrum Bluming, like, and maybe it's Bluming, I'm not sure, but that is the person that wrote Menopause Matters, which is an incredible book. And also Dr. Louise Newson, who is a super, super cool and trustworthy source of information. These are our professionals that have kind of dedicated their practice and their lives to this specific topic. And so I have found them to be very trustworthy. They are up on all of the latest research. And so that is kind of what I'm going by in case you're wondering kind of where I'm getting my information. But no matter what, this is all just for educational purposes, all just for informational purposes. I'm just sharing my experience, what's worked for me, and you can take that information and go to your health professional and make some decisions. Obviously, I can't do that for you, and I can't give you medical advice. So let's jump into the actual myths and let's just talk about them a little bit and kind of break them down and find out what the actual truth is, okay? So, and if you see me looking over here, again, I say this in every video, if I'm looking over here, it's not because I have scripted this video. I'm trying to make these just like super just casual and have a conversation with you guys. But one of the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause for me has been memory loss and just not being able to articulate things the way that I used to. And so I just want to make sure I cover the points that I want to share with you guys. So if you see me looking off camera a little bit, that's the reason why. So here is myth number one. And I think that this is a big one because I think that women tend to excuse a lot of the symptoms that they have because they don't fit the typical like menopause or perimenopause, like, oh, this is how you should be feeling. So myth number one is like, if you're not having hot flashes, you're not in menopause. And so a lot of us have this idea that menopause equals hot flashes or night sweats. And it's because that's what our culture and the history of menopause has kind of taught us, like, oh, that's what menopause is. It's just, you have some hot flashes and you just get hot for a few minutes. And maybe you might, kind of soak through your sheets once, a week and it's fine. You just change your sheets and that's menopause. But it is obviously so much more than that. And a lot of women don't have those symptoms at all. A lot of women don't suffer from actual hot flashes. I definitely did. That was one of the most debilitating symptoms for me was hot flashes because, as I've said before, it was so much more than just getting warm. It was just this intense rise in my nervous system and this just feeling of anxiousness and heat that kind of started in the middle of my body and spread to my entire body. It was very intense and they were happening dozens and dozens and dozens of times a day and night. So for me, that was a really intense symptom, but maybe it isn't for you. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you are not going through peri or menopause, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to also suffer with the symptoms that you are having. So it's not just about hot flashes. It can show up in lots of different ways. And doctors like Mary Claire Haver and Louise Newson talk a lot about how menopause affects our entire bodies. It's not just that internal thermostat thing with the hot flashes. And let me tell you, like, I was really surprised to find out that our hormones, our sex hormones, which are estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone, affect so many symptoms in our bodies, right? So here are some of the other things that you might experience if you are in peri or menopause: brain fog, memory issues. If you're feeling forgetful, you're struggling to concentrate, you are struggling to find words. It's beyond just like the, oh, I thought I put my keys here. It's a step above that. It is just feeling like you cannot keep track of things anymore. You can't stay on top of your life. And I know for a lot of women, a lot of these are very hard to tell the difference between normal aging and what might be more, right? And so for me, I know this was how I decided that it was not just normal aging. I was 45 maybe, right? When some of the worst symptoms started. And I know that at 45, it's not normal to feel like I can't even have a conversation with someone without just having to stop in my tracks and not be able to speak. It's not normal to, to be able to, or just forget all these different things. I also was diagnosed with ADHD at the time that I went through perimenopause and menopause. Again, another video for another time. I would love to talk about that. I think that's a really huge one. But just know that if you are all of a sudden really having some brain fog and just being way more forgetful than you normally are, just know that that absolutely could be related to perimenopause and menopause, and it's something to get checked out with a menopause specialist. So make sure you get that checked out. The other one is joint pain and stiffness. This is also another huge symptom that I had, and a lot of, I still do. I've said this in another video, and again, I'll link this specific video where I was talking about these specific symptoms that nobody seems to really talk about much with menopause, but this is one of them: joint pain and stiffness, feeling just those aching, joints where I wake up in the morning and you feel like you're like 60. You can't even get out of bed without, your knees and your hips and your shoulders hurting. It's ridiculous. We're not supposed to feel that way in our 40s. And I can always tell when my estradiol is low or I forget to change my estradiol patch, because that is one of my first symptoms is joint pain. So if that's something you're experiencing, again, not normal, it could be something else, but you want to at least get it checked out so that you can pinpoint what's going on. And if it's something else, you can get it treated. If it is perimenopause or menopause, you can go down and walk that path too with your provider and find out what you can do to treat it. Okay. Mood swings and anxiety. I think you guys kind of know this one. Maybe this is a little bit more common, but feeling really irritable, really on edge, feeling really angry, completely overwhelmed, not being able to deal with situations that you were able to deal with before. That is a huge sign of changes in your hormones and this menopausal shift that's happening in our bodies and brains. Sleep problems. Really struggling to get a good night's sleep. Maybe it is, maybe you are suffering from like night sweats or something like that, but it could be just having a hard time falling asleep. But what I have usually seen with women, and I know this is true with me, what I've seen with other women, and I would love to hear from you what your experience is with sleep in particular. What I see a lot is women are okay falling asleep. They don't have trouble doing that, but they have trouble staying asleep. So it's like that 3 a.m., that 4 a.m., that 5 a.m. creeps up and boop, your eyes are open, and it's not like you can just go back to sleep. And that still happens to me sometimes. And we all know that that just then affects everything, especially if it's happening repeatedly. Not normal, not being able to sleep. Of course, a night or two here and there is fine. But if this is repeatedly happening to you over and over, and it's really affecting your life, please, please talk to a menopause specialist, because this is one that you really might be experiencing and can sneak up on you. Heart palpitations is another one, right? Like you feel like your heart is skipping beats. Digestive issues, all of a sudden you've got bloating and gas and diarrhea and food sensitivities. Random tummy troubles that you didn't have before. That's another huge red flag that you may be going through some hormonal changes. So if you're feeling off in that way, please just know that it is not just about the hot flashes and night sweats. It can be so much more, and you don't have to suffer with those things. So make sure you get some help with that if that's something that you're going through. Okay, myth number 2. And this is the one that causes a lot of emotion from people. This is the one that causes a lot of really intense conversations on the internet and Facebook groups when people are talking about it. And I understand why, because it's scary. It is that HRT causes breast cancer, right? And I want to kind of tell you where that all stems from and why a lot of both people, women, men, everybody, but not just lay people that aren't medical professionals, but also medical professionals and providers, they still believe that too. Let me kind of backtrack and tell you where that came from so you can understand a little bit more about it. It really stemmed from a study that came out in 2002. It was called the Women's Health Initiative, WHI. You may have seen it, floating around in maybe a group that you're in or a book that you've read. And that study scared so many women and so many doctors into avoiding HRT. And it basically deprived an entire generation, like my mom, of at least the option of HRT, at least having the conversation of HRT. And it also kind of just put in this part into our culture where women just weren't even taken very seriously, right? And so there was a lot of kind of medical gaslighting and just not acknowledging that women were going through these things. They were treated for other things like anxiety and depression when really the issue was hormonal. And so that study held tight, and the results of that study saying that there was an increase in breast cancer, it had a grip on society and culture and providers for so long that it is just now starting to get unraveled, but I don't know that the damage will ever be undone. Here is the reality with that study. So many of those studies, that study has been reanalyzed, kind of debunked, looked at in every different way, shape, or form by experts that know more now, right? And we've done new research and we know more about it. So all these experts have really pointed out some huge flaws in how the study was conducted, but also just that there was very different things going on. So for instance, a lot of the women in the study were much, much older than a typical woman that would be receiving HRT now. And then the other huge one was that they were given older synthetic forms of hormones. They were not the bioidentical options that we have now, like the estradiol patch and the microdosed progesterone. Those were not what was given, and that was not what was studied. It was synthetic equine, meaning horse, kind of the estrogen or conjugated estrogens that were pulled from the horse urine was what was given to the women in these studies, and that's what was studied, and that was what was seen to have that increase in breast cancer. So the two are not the same, right? It's not apples and apples. So we certainly can't compare. And so that was a big flaw. And then there were some other issues too, right? Like a lot of the women were decades past menopause, and a lot of them had a lot of other health conditions going on. So that was the basis of all of this fear surrounding the breast cancer link with HRT. We know different now. We know that there are not only that link just really doesn't exist. And again, I want to be very careful here because I am not a doctor. I want to keep saying that because I don't want to give you medical advice. I want to share what I've learned and what I've experienced. So we just kind of understand that, or at least the experts say that for many women, not all, that the benefits of HRT, like improving bone density and heart health and overall quality of life, absolutely outweigh the risks. And that is something you have to do every time you take a new medication in your life or even a supplement. You have to decide, are the risks worth the benefits? That's always what you have to weigh, and that is done with your medical provider. That is done with your doctor that is knowledgeable on all of the latest research. So just make sure you find someone like that understands the latest stuff and the latest the research and all of this information that's coming out now, so that you can make an educated decision. That's all I want. I am not pro HRT for everyone. I am pro the option for HRT for everyone. I am pro the newest research for HRT, so that women can make their own choices when it comes to their bodies and their health, right? And so do some digging there. Again, I'm going to link some good resources for you to take a look at with the latest experts and what they are saying about all of this. But that is the biggest myth that I think I have seen. And that's a big one. And so I've given you a little bit of guidance into just the research I've done and what the experts are saying now. And so you can make your own decision. Okay. All right. Myth number 3. This one is a tough one, because this one kind of hits like, we're dealing with all these other things. And then, okay, do we really have to deal with weight gain during menopause? Like, is that just inevitable? Is it just going to happen no matter what? And I think that there's this belief that once menopause hits, that just weight gain is just going to happen, especially like around the belly area. And trust me, it does happen. Like, for so many women, that is an issue. And I do think that there is a connection between hormones and just our metabolism changing as we get older. And especially if we are not doing things to treat some of our symptoms that are happening during peri and menopause, then definitely that weight gain is going to be an issue. But I'm also here to tell you that the experts also know that a lot of it is lifestyle choices. A lot of it can be changed, and your lifestyle choices can make huge difference in what your weight looks like, your body looks like, your body feels like. And so here are a few things that the experts say will really help with that change. And so strength training is a big one. As we get older, we start losing muscle. That is just a fact. And so a lot of women are not gaining muscle like they would be. In fact, they're losing muscle, especially if they're sedentary or they're not doing some resistance or strength training. And so if you can build up lean muscle mass, that is going to increase your metabolism. That we know. We also know, or the experts tell us, that when you add lean muscle to your body, it can, and you're doing weight bearing exercise like that, it can help with your bone density. That's a huge issue for me. I'm super petite. I've got a whole story with my mom with osteoporosis and bone density that I'll share another time, because again, super important conversation. There's so many things to talk about this with this, you guys. There's so many different things that we need to know and understand. But so lifting heavy, or just weightlifting in general, making sure that you're building muscle, strength training in some way will be a huge benefit for you. The experts also say that we've got to make some changes to our nutrition. We know, or the experts tell us, that during menopause, there's some inflammatory things that are going on. Inflammation happens, especially when our hormones are low. And so bringing in like an anti-inflammatory diet, like with lots of good proteins, lots of healthy fats, lots of fiber, that can help really balance your blood sugar and just take or make the best of all these hormonal shifts. And so, and some of the experts out there, like Dr. Claire Haver, I know she's got her Galveston diet, which focuses on those things. So maybe that's something that you can take a look at. And then here's the other one that we kind of, don't want to always admit affects us. And to be honest, this is not one that I am very good at, and that I don't often admit that it makes a huge difference, but just managing stress, right? Just managing stress. And it sounds so freaking cliche. Like when you go to a doctor and they're like, well, how's your stress level? And I'm like, well, I'm going through menopause and I have 2 teenagers and I'm taking care of my mom and I've got 3 dogs and 2 cats and a mortgage and right? Like Of course I'm stressed. No, I'm not managing my stress well at all. But all of the chemicals that are produced by our brain when we're that stressed, like cortisol, it can play a huge role in weight gain, especially when we're going through peri and menopause. So finding ways to manage that stress is huge. I am not the best at this. I will be the first to admit that. I am trying. Because I do recognize that it not only is it affecting my weight and kind of my health, but I'm also just kind of recognizing that it's starting to age me. Like I feel older when I have a lot of stress in my life. So it's something I'm really trying to be aware of. And then sleep. Sleep is the last one. Make sure you're getting a lot of sleep. Sleep, heals our body and it makes us feel good. In fact, I know today, like I feel a little spacey because I just didn't get enough sleep last night. I was up late working. And so I'm running on too little sleep and I just can't do it anymore. I just can't. And then that also changes our cortisol levels. Then it can lead to cravings in the future, which can lead to weight gain. It can lead to, more sugar intake and processed foods. And it's kind of like this vicious cycle, right? So just be aware of the sleep thing. So it's not set in stone. It doesn't mean that once you're in menopause that you are destined to have, this huge stomach and these huge hips and that's it. And there's nothing you can do about it. Small little changes and little tiny tweaks in your habits can make a huge change and for the long run. And if you're struggling, again, please get some professional help with this. We deserve it. We deserve to feel good. We deserve to prioritize ourselves. And that's something I know that I have told you guys a lot. Okay. And so those are the three big ones that I wanted to talk about. And I just wanted to wrap up by saying that I think a lot of women consider themselves not in menopause or not bothered by it enough if they're not having hot flashes. But meanwhile, they've got, 6 other symptoms that are life altering, but they don't make the connection that that's what's going on and that it's related to hormones. So I'm here to tell you that if you're having those other symptoms, it's probably related to hormones, right? So take a look at that. And then just do some research with the whole breast cancer and HRT and the Women's Health Initiative. Understand that that was an older time and a lot of that has kind of been re-looked at by new data and by new experts. And then what was my last one? Sorry. See, I've already lost my thoughts here. Oh, then the weight gain thing, right? Just knowing that you're not destined for that to happen. It doesn't have to be that way. You can take those steps to just do the best that you can to manage it. And I would love for you to tell me what the biggest challenge has been for you so far. Has it been weight gain? Has it been, just like stubborn belly fat that you're trying to get rid of? Are you scared of HRT causing breast cancer? Maybe you've got breast cancer somewhere in your family. Like, is that an issue for you? Let me know that. I would love to hear that. And then, I would love to just know if you're one of those women that doesn't have the hot flashes and everything is okay in that, right? You're not like laying in your sweat at night, but you've got some other things going on. Please leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear about that. And I just know that when you leave a comment like that, not only and I will respond to you, not only are you helping yourself and me and helping to grow this channel so that I can do more videos, but there is just that connection that happens when another woman comes and watches this video and sees your comment and they say, hey, I'm going through that too. I've been there. And that acknowledgement and knowing that you're not alone is huge. And that is a big reason why I am doing just these videos and just talking about this stuff, because we've got to form a community around this so that we know how to move through this time in our lives, because it is not easy, right? And lastly, prioritize your health enough so that you can get yourself some professional help if you need it. Make sure that you are finding someone that is knowledgeable on all the latest and greatest research and knows hormones specifically. And then lastly, I would just ask that if you have found this valuable at all, if this has been helpful for you, if this resonates with you, please like the video. Subscribing would also be awesome. Leaving a comment would be awesome. I appreciate your support. And hey, this has been fun. Let me know if any of these things are going on in your life. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll talk to you next time.